couple of things that we want to talk about beforehand to get started. Just want to mention to folks that we are in a presentation mode so that all attendees are muted. And if you have any questions or issues during the webinar, then please just click on the Q&A icon in the toolbar. You'll find it up, I think, by the top of the screen or the bottom. And Stacy will help you with that. If there's any connection issues, she'll help on there. So depending on your settings, you'll find that again, top or bottom. Just move your mouse. This session is going to be recorded, if it's not already. It will be able to be sent out to anyone who is interested. If you have folks who can't attend, as long as they let Stacy know, we'll be happy to forward that. Jeff will also receive a copy so that any of his team or customers and prospects that he has that his team's talking with can get a copy of it also. We're going to have an hour to jet through this today. And what I want to be able to do is very quickly cover all the topics we have, but all of them obviously need a lot more in-depth discussion to really fully understand them. And we're very pleased to follow through on that and discuss that with you. There will be contact information at toward the end of the session today. We're going to also have a lab. The Conformic tooling will be demonstrated in great detail, a 90-minute lab coming up. So for those of you who would like to get a little more meat in the understanding of Conformic, we have a lab set up for the US audience coming up this coming Thursday, May 18th. And then there will be a lab on Thursday, May 25th for India and Europe. So please reach out to Stacy, or she'll be contacting you to let you know that these labs are coming up. And please sign up for those if you'd like more information. Those are live sessions, so they'll get into a lot of detail. So I'm going to jump in. Stacy, have you started recording? If not, please do.
I have. It's in
process.
All right.
Excellent. Okay, we're going to spend just a couple minutes here finishing up and getting started, but after that, we're going to dive right in. And Jeff's going to talk about how Accenture has created and used their centers of excellence, their touchless testing, automation, tooling, their experience to deliver advanced testing in this new era of IT. And he'll go into a significant amount of detail in the time he has, about 15 minutes. I'll talk then on the role that Conformic plays in delivering a key piece with our technology. The idea is to have computers generate the test cases to be able to do fast enough, comprehensively enough to keep up with agile speeds. And Alexis will provide a short demo after that to give a quick view of how that works. So the end, we'll look at Q&A to make sure that if we have questions questions at the end, we will cover them. We will stay on a little longer than an hour if there are lots of questions, but we're going to try and go right through the entire procedure now and try and complete on time. So with that, I'm going to jump in and say I want to introduce Jeff Wilkinson. He manages the testing practice for Accenture here in North America. And Jeff, I'm going to just click through if you would. I'll just change the slides if you tell me when, and we'll jump in.
Okay, thank you, Clark, and thank you and your team for allowing me the opportunity to evangelize on a topic that I think is really important, not just for Accenture and our clients, but for the entire IT industry. For those of you in the audience that have sort of heard me speak in TED Talk formats on this topic, a lot of this will be not new to you, but for those of you who haven't, just to set the expectation and to whet your appetite, we are at an inflection point now in the IT industry where testing as we know it has changed or is changing dramatically. I would say in 3 to 4 years, you're going to see a very different landscape. And I appreciate the opportunity to speak alongside one of our key ecosystem partners in this transformation. What I'm talking about is the movement to quality engineering. We're getting away from pure historical testing, particularly manual testing. By the way, for those of you on the panel, if you could go put your mics on mute, it would be helpful. I think I hear a little bit of background ambient noise. Thank you. We're moving to quality engineering, and I will describe what that means. But there are a couple of points that I think are extremely important that if you take away nothing else from my discussion today, at least take away these 2 points. Number one, we're going to move to a world where we eliminate or significantly reduce manual testing that occurs. And number two, we're going to eliminate scripting where possible. So if you have been living in a world of manual testing in a scripted manner, I would expect that will change. And we'll talk a little bit about why. So let's talk about how this all comes about. And I'm going to kind of paint a picture here. And if you look at the slide, and by the way, I like to talk in the absence of the slides. I just like to stand up and sort of understand what the landscape looks like without spending time talking about slides. But I have a few here, so we'll talk about them. Right? What we are looking at is a world in which the digital is playing a significant part in our systems development. I tell this story often, but I have 2 daughters. They're both in high school. Neither of them really understand what a workstation is. Neither of them have laptops. They don't see laptops around the house. They go to school with their smart devices, right, an iPad or their smartphone, and their world is not large SAP, Oracle, large programs, large monolithic enterprise resource planning systems. They're apps, right? They download apps from the cloud and they play, or they do it for something for school. Nowadays, in business, we do the same thing. Think about companies such as Uber or Netflix, right? Companies that have not, don't have a large brick and mortar presence, but rather have put content onto the internet, and that content is in the form of an application. Today, that's what the majority of the business is trending towards. Right? There's every company that's out there is a digital company. Accenture has been pushing that for a couple of years now. So if you are working for, what you might think of as an insurance company, for example, they're not digital, or a defense contractor, they're not digital. Everyone is digital. There's no getting around that. And so the need for agility, the need for using apps, putting apps on the internet, or for putting content on the internet, and for changing things on a regular basis, and regular I mean daily, maybe hourly. Netflix does that. Uber does that. Airbnb does that, right? Most of the companies that are out there today do that. What that is driving is the need for agility and getting things to market very, very quickly. So it's changing the way we're doing things in the marketplace in terms of systems development. No longer are we doing a majority waterfall, plan, design, build, test, deploy into production. That's sort of the way of the past. Although many of our clients are still doing that to some extent, there is a clear transformation over towards agility, or to agile, liquid application development, and it's changing the way we're testing. So to test effectively today, we have to be able to test continuously, because we're going to be delivering continuously. Continuous integration, continuous delivery, or CI/CD is a key buzzword in the industry. But in order to be successful in delivering in a CI/CD world, you have to automate. Okay, so that's what I mean, that we're going to basically be eliminating manual testing. There are tools in the marketplace that enable us to do that. Informix sits in the ecosystem that's going to enable us to do that. So I painted a picture. Imagine a world where there are no regression defects. Imagine a world where you can use the crowd to test your systems. Guess what? Uber does that. Netflix does that. They don't have a bunch of testers sitting around doing testing. They let the crowd do that. Imagine a world where you create test cases automatically, or you create your process flows automatically, right? And everything done is automatic using automation, and we use analytics and artificial intelligence to help eliminate the amount of testing you need to do in order to be successful. So Clark, if you go to the next slide, please. This illustrates what I'm talking about. we're talking about the notion of quality engineering, which comes at the intersection of testing, and primarily automated testing, DevOps, which is the operations aspect of development, testing, and operations, and then agile development. The convergence of those skills is what we call quality engineering. And what's driving that? On the left-hand side, you see these bubbles. The first one is the changing ecosystem, and that's really the different types of systems that are out there, the apps that are on your smart pads, for example, and the need to get into production on a regular basis, continuous basis. There's always downward cost pressures for maintaining quality, and the need for driving revenue and reducing costs continuously through business agility is driving this need for continuous delivery, continuous testing. So we talk about quality engineering. I look at my organization, we've got about 38,000 people globally, and I would say a good number of them, maybe 80% of them, are focused on manual testing today. We are currently in a massive campaign to upskill our people to do more than just manual testing. They need to understand automation. They need to understand how DevOps works. They need to understand how to test within a scrum, right, within a sprint, in agile sort of a manner. And if you do that and you have the skills to do all those things, you are a quality engineer. The expectation is that will require fewer people in the future, but they're going to be higher skilled people with a higher premium in terms of their salary compensation. So let's go on to the next slide. And just to give you an idea of how we've operated in the past, right? We all, and I'm not just talking about Accenture, but our competitors as well, have been involved in creating testing centers of excellence at our clients. And on the far left side, I know you can't really read it, but it shows that there's a continuum from fully decentralized or federated to fully centralized or testing centers of excellence and everything in between. And quite frankly, we have had clients that have sat all the way along that continuum and been successful, but there have been pros and cons of each of the approaches. For those that are in federated or decentralized, you make the program managers very happy because they own all the resources. And you develop some level of vertical expertise. On the far right-hand side, you may lose the happiness of the program managers, but you've improved the overall quality because you're standardizing. You've improved the cost because you're eliminating redundancies and you're driving productivity. And you're doing that in the middle here. It shows an organization, and this is the old world in sort of today's world, but it shows a testing center of excellence at 3 levels. It shows verticals, right, where we have people who are aligned continuously to a vertical. You might have a knowledge in finance or in order to cash or sales and marketing. And those people, primarily manual testers, are doing that because they've been doing it for years and they understand that functionality. On the bottom, you have the horizontals, true shared services where you don't need to have vertical knowledge to be successful. And that includes automation, performance testing and engineering, security testing, test data management, processes, the test management office would be included there, right? Really eliminating redundancies and driving to a more efficient way of doing those kinds of bits in a factory model. Then you have the middle section, which is your fungible, flexible cloud of non-aligned testers. Those people who are more junior, who can move from areas of low demand to areas of higher demand, right? And that's just a way of making your testing center of excellence more efficient. So on the far right, you see that of a typical testing center of excellence, 70% of them are going to be functional. And then the rest of them are going to be a smattering of formerly known as software delivery engineers and tests, or SDETs, and then your TMO. But Clark, if you go to the next slide, you'll see where the world is going. By the way, on this slide, this slide, if you took 100 people, 70 of them would be functional testers. But as you go to the next slide here on the showing the quality center of excellence with quality engineers, now instead of 70% doing manual testing, you've got 69% are quality engineers or performance engineers. Yeah, so you still have the same number of people are essentially doing the test management office, but you shrunk your manual functional testers down to 16%. And if you'll note, and I don't have it added up here, but this adds up to about 55 people. So this is very conservative. You've cut the headcount on your testing center of excellence by 45 people, because you're able to eliminate manual scripted testing. Okay, there are some tools out there that allow you to do that. In Conformic, I'll tell you where Conformic fits in, but we look at Tricentis, we look at WorkSoft. Those are the primary tools now that allow you to do non-scripted testing. And the way they do that is because they are more model-based testing than a code-based or scripted-based testing. It allows you to create a model of the system, and the model then it can be tweaked anytime something changes in the system. This enables you to use automation, not just for regression testing like we've done historically, but for progression testing, for your functional testing, your system testing, or your systems integration testing, or if you like, your product testing. We've not done that in the past because it meant that you had to constantly update your scripts, your automation scripts. Now you don't have to do that anymore with these tools. And where Conformic fits in, and it's a very, very important piece, is that it enables the model-based testing by creating automated process flows. And we're going to go into that in more detail when Clark talks a little bit later, and Alexis is going to give you a demonstration that shows that. But remember the important part here, because you're eliminating manual testing or reducing it to a low amount, and you're taking away the need for scripting, you're able to cut the size of your organization by a significant amount. In this case, it's showing 45%. But we've actually seen more in some of our clients. So Clark, let's continue on the next slide. I'm sure we'll save some questions here towards the end. Here's a good example describing this. And it shows on the left-hand side the typical organization today, predominantly manual testing. In the future, it's much more focused on quality engineering. You can see that the overall size is reduced by a significant amount. I don't think you'll ever get rid of manual testing, but what we're saying is that the people that do manual testing today will be your true functional experts. They'll be doing exploratory testing, non-scripted exploratory testing, and the rest of the testing will be automated at both the API level, the UI level with WorkSoft and Tricentis, and then at the API level with some of our other partners such as SmartBear and then SoapUI, which is an open source tool. Okay, so Clark, let's go on to the next slide. My boss is Kishore Berry. He's our global testing lead for Accenture. And he has a degree in robotics and artificial intelligence. And one of the things that he is pushing is this notion of touchless testing, which uses intelligent automation, which is what we've just been discussing, as well as artificial intelligence or analytics to reduce the amount of testing that needs to be done. And then Bhaskar Ghosh is the overall technology lead at Accenture. He's our CTO. He recognizes the need for this, and one of our biggest pushes right now is for our touchless testing tool, which is it's just in the market. We just released at our last symposium here in North America in January. So if you go to the next slide, let me just explain what touchless testing is. It is essentially an orchestrator of our vendor partner ecosystem but it enables the intelligent automation as well as the analytics and artificial intelligence. So some examples of the artificial intelligence are Splunk and Saffron technologies. They enable a historical view of the testing that you've done, determining what tests have been low value and eliminating those, what tests are redundant and eliminating those, so that you get an overall significant reduction in your test suite, right? If you're able to be more precise in what you test, we like to call that precision testing, okay? And I don't have time for a demo of this right now. We will be arranging those publicly in the future, but just understand that this is a key component of what we are doing with the marketplace. Okay, so I think it's time now to turn it over to Clark. And Clark, I think you've got about 50 minutes to talk about Conformic, and then we'll do a demo, right?
Yeah. Hey, thank you, Jeff. I appreciate that. I appreciate the introduction. Jeff has introduced the advanced capabilities, very high level. Again, reach out to him. We'll provide the contact information toward the end of the presentation to get a lot more detail on touchless testing. I think you're going to be very impressed, and you'll just really understand better the path that Accenture's taking to really. I don't know that it's revolutionized, but it's certainly to concretize and productize the ability to deliver tests faster, better, cheaper. and that's key for going forward. So Jeff introduced some of the toolings that are included with touchless testing. Conformic is one of those. And so the question is here for the next couple slides, why is Conformic included? What's the how and the why are we unique so that we're included in the fairly exclusive list of tools with touchless testing. So there's really 4 big points I want to touch on here. The key is one touch. The more times you touch your tests, the more times you have to think and get people involved and add to the process flow, the more time it takes, the more difficult it is to manage, the more issues there are with delivering quality and doing it fast enough. So the key here is that Conformic and our Conformic Creator tool is really the only tool that is going to give you one-step test design, automated test design. You have a capture of the application, not the tests, but the application. Therefore, it's easy to change when the application changes. And from that, it's a graphical representation. It's important because you get to see the flow of the application. You get to understand it because, frankly, how do you design, heck, how do you even test if you don't fully understand the process of the application, the flow of the application? You get complex looping functions and data dependencies and conditional branching and the kinds of flows that are in real live applications. If you don't understand that you're capturing both the positive and the negative paths through that, it's very difficult to say that you've comprehensively tested your application. And if you're not, you're leaving yourself open for problems later. So the key here is to do this in one step, and Alexis will show this. Second, asset reutilization. The idea is to start with the tests that you have. They could be manual tests, they could be recordings, screen scrapes, feature files, like drawings like Visio. But the idea is to be able to reuse information that you already have, and then be able to use that to speed the generation of test cases or the changes to test cases. This becomes increasingly important when you have brownfield applications or you're adding new capabilities to existing applications so that you're not having to start over. You can start from where you left off and then automate and dramatically increase your speed and understanding of your tests. So the idea with what I'll call reverse engineering here is to use these assets. They're automatically optimized in the Conformic process. And from this, they'll automatically generate input for the automated test design, the computer-generated test design. And from that, you can then automatically generate the scripts and the validations for your test execution. You also have the ability, if you have a test automation backlog where you have a lot of existing manual tests and you just want to automate those. You're not interested in doing anything but creating a regression pack for automated execution. We also have the ability to do that. The gains that you see in utilizing existing assets, you can see here between 40 and 80% over just manually recreating those assets. But we also end up seeing a reduction in the number of test cases for full requirements coverage. And it's important to know that because you're going to understand with this process what your requirements are covering, which test cases cover which requirements, and you're going to fully document everything so that there's increased confidence, not just for yourself, but for your management and your stakeholders. The third area is to be able to leverage the assets in terms of existing applications that you have, existing tools, existing best-of-breed products. You've built these up over time. You have them for a reason, but no one tool does everything. Jeff has mentioned a number of tools. The idea is to leverage those toolings and link them together in a seamless fashion. If you have to go between tools and have manual intervention, we're back to the issue of availability, errors, scheduling, etc. So the point is to live in the digital world. Well, guess what? Digital connects everything electronically, and that's what Conformix has been set up to do. We were maybe lucky in the beginning to do this with proprietary systems, so we've created open APIs that make it very simple to connect up everything to everything. You know, you can start with Rally, you can add, you know, information from Gherkin or you know, other sources, conformic models or other models, Visio. Document this in a variety of formats, even different languages. Put those into different test management tools, like you put it into an HPQC, and then maybe you'll execute in Selenium or in SOAP UI. I mean, no issue. The idea here is to be able to use this as a common platform for all the different types of testing that you're doing with the different tools you have. The last is the concept of having algorithms that allow large-scale deployment. You know, you see simple little examples on purpose just because it's easy to understand, but the reality is that you're engaged in large applications that need testing efficiency and scalability, and Conformic is unique in doing this because we're actually using multi-threaded algorithm. It uses all the cores that you have available, all the processors that are there to be able to distribute that over the processors on your local machine, or even on a distribution of multiple computers in a network. So the key here is that it's all deterministic, so every time you run it, you get the same result unless you've touched something. And trust me, the ability to spread across multiple computers wasn't hard. The ability to do it deterministically was very hard. How does this look? How does this all flow together? Start from left to right. What you're looking at here is a variety of import sources. These are examples you might have. You pull those into modeling. The idea is to create a graphical representation. Think of it as a flow diagram. It has more information than that, but it's a flow diagram. If you're testing through the GUI, it's going to have a representation of button clicks and fill forms and those kinds of things that you have to be able to comprehensively test that those operations work correctly. A simplistic process flow without data is kind of useless. I mean, if you're used to doing that and then you add data later, okay, but we're talking about automating this directly without manual intervention. So we have to have all that information, and then you press a button and the test design will be generated. Now you're going to look at it, you're going to review it, you're going to make sure that it's doing what you want, because you may have had an error. You may have not asked for the type of testing that you want. You have lots of flexibility. But the idea is that you're not doing the heavy lifting. You're letting the computer generate these test cases automatically. You're not inputting the scenarios, the tests themselves. You're not modeling the tests. You're saying, how does the application work? Because that's what we're testing. It's great that you could test against the scenarios, but what you really want to test is, does the application work the way it's supposed to work? And so in that way, the tool will actually understand the logic of your model, of your graphical representation. This is the thing you got to wrap your head around. It's understanding that logic, and from there, it's generating the test cases automatically. Those then go into a variety of execution platforms. I show multiples there. You know, whether it's HP, whether it's Tosca, whether it's Worksoft, whether it's Robot or Selenium or SOAP UI or XYZ. The point is that the process flow is the same, and you just link it into your execution environment. All the links are in place, as we talked about before, to tie everything together so that it's easily repeatable, it's consistent, it's standard, and your different testing teams will all work in the same fashion. So the key here is not to create a one-off, but to create a process flow that actually supports the efficiency gains and the distribution of people that Jeff talked about earlier. You have people that actually understand this and are able to deliver it, so that the time it takes to generate a test went from hours to seconds. the time it took to do all the different manual steps to get ready to write test cases has been eliminated to a visual representation of the way your application is supposed to work. Have a peer review, get everybody on the same page, understand what the application is doing, and at that point, you press a button and you get test cases, and you're ready to execute as soon as you got a code drop in your sprint. So you can actually keep up with progression testing. Why? Because the automated design of test cases is more than just the test cases. It's the environment and the system information that's needed to really understand what's going on, both for yourself as a tester as well as your organization and your customers. So all these X's, all these manual steps that are listed are things that you would normally do manually. Now, some of them you may skip. Oh, writing test documentation. I don't have time for that. Well, someplace, somewhere, somebody needs to do that. And so if you're cutting corners by not doing very efficient tests, you're waiting till later, you're doing, smoke tests or some exploratory testing, and then you're passing the baton to the regression team to do the coding and do the automated execution weeks later, that's when you're going to find integration problems. So we're talking about testing the components. We're talking about putting models together that will represent the graphical flows, but then you can combine those graphical flows into a system, and you can then immediately test the system integration and the system operation, or at least the integration of the components that you're looking to test. And you can do that again in Sprint, because it's just a case of gluing the graphics together. Think about combining two Visio diagrams, for example, and then pressing a button and generating the test cases. So the idea here is to automate things fast enough that you can actually deliver tests fast enough. You can deliver tests continuously, because you can link directly to execution. You can use Jenkins, whatever the idea is, to be able to automate your execution, but to be able to do it fast enough that you can actually keep up with the speed of agile development, and do it comprehensively enough so that you're not fooling yourselves and just passing the problem later. This is about a project getting out on time. It's not about one step in a testing process where you're able to get through it quickly. Here, you're able to do it comprehensively enough, do everything that's on this page automatically, and avoid all the current pitfalls that are in place today with the manual process. And that's the only way you're going to really look at being able to test going forward in the future. It's the only way that you're really going to be able to deliver the advanced testing that you need for the new IT. So we're talking about full automation here. We're talking about reducing people. We're talking about the experience that Accenture brings and the technology that Conformic brings. And we're going to show you that next. So I'm going to switch over to Alexis, and we're going to give you a quick run through of the way the Conformic Creator tool looks. And then I'll come back and we'll go through a couple of slides just to give you touch points to reach out to us and answer your questions. So here you go, Alexis.
Okay, thank you very much. Can you all see my screen?
Yes, we can.
Great, so let's start. So hello everybody. So what I will show you today is Conformic Creator. So when we want to use this type of tool, we have basically 3 steps. So the first one will be to create a model, the second one will be the test generation, and the last one will be the test automation and execution. So in this tool, what we have some perspective. This is some Eclipse language. So basically it's really simple. We have one I will say view for modeling, one view for test generation, and another one for the test review, and another one for test automation and execution. So everything is based on Eclipse. This means that you can run it on the Linux or Windows. And this means also that for us, if we need to do some integration, for example, to your custom requirement manager management or your custom automation language, then it's really easy for us to do it. So let's start and jump inside the tool. So what I have a project called Creator ESD project. So I will show you the SUT. Here we are. So the SUT will be really simple because I don't want to spend so much time on the SUT, but I want to spend some time more on the technology. So well, it's web-based, so my demo will be really on the UI testing. You need to know that we can do web services, we can do mobile testing, we can do web services testing, and more. So around UI testing, what I want to test is my website called esd.conformic.com. And what I want to do is I want to click on the link. After that, I have this interface where I have some text box. What I can add an item here with a quantity. I can add that to the shopping basket. And I can add an invalid item. I will have an error message. I can have also a valid item, but with an invalid quantity. And I will have another error message. I can, of course, remove the item and I can check out. So this is pretty basic. Again, I think everybody know how this SUT works. So now we can talk about the modeling itself. So when I use this tool, the first thing to do is I want to create a model. So you have two possibilities to create the model. The first one is you reuse assets. So it could be your manual test, it could be Visio diagram, it could be BPMN diagram, it could be whatever you want. And after that, we will import that and generate a model or a structure diagram. I will explain. Or another way is you start from scratch, and it's what I will show you today. So I have my Creator ESD project, and what I have here, I have a couple of folders. I have this DC, requirement provider. I have another one for the model here, and I will expand that. So something really great with this technology is the language is really simple. So I think without any training, you can understand what I want to do on my screen. So here I have a beginning, here I have an end, and in between I have some activity. So what I want to do is basically I want to test a login screen. It's really just to talk about the language on this step. So I have again the beginning, here the end, and I have some conditions. So I saw a question around test data, so I will jump on it. So when I send something to my SUT, because when I model, I'm the system. So I want to send, and when I receive something from the user, this is some data. So what I have here, I have some action in it. Here we are. And based on this action, so here I have this field the form. So where I want to enter all this user information, like a login or a password. In it, I can send some data. So I can connect that to an Excel file, for example, for a database and all that. So the user will send all this information, and I will say how to deal with this information will be managed after that in this condition. Okay, so if the user send a correct password, so it could be Armen and the password 123 or Stefan and the password ABC, then it's okay, and then I will go here. If it's not okay, if it's something else, then what I will display an invalid login. So this is really simple to model, and as you can see, this is some natural language. I mean, it's not coding, this is 100% graphical. So okay. So this activity diagram is based on something called the structure diagram. So the structure diagram, it's really the interface of your system. So if I come back on my SUT, what I have some text box, some button and all that. This is some interface. So how I will call it, I will create a structure diagram in it, and I will describe basically and really in a simple manner my UI. Here again, it's UI testing. If I want to do some web services, then I will have the language. I will have some message. If I want to do some mobile testing, and I will have a library for that. This is really easy. And after that, when it's done, I will add all this action in an activity diagram. And after that, I can generate some tests. So let's come back now on my SUT. So my SUT is based on a simple web application. So I will open the main diagram. You will see that it's a bit more complex than before. So you can see that I have my beginning. And if I zoom a bit, what I want to do first is I want to connect, and I want to open my website. So I will just send the URL here. After that, I will click on the start spare link. I think you can understand really what I want to do here. And after that, I can start shopping. So when I start shopping, I will say multiple choice. It's really based on the user. He can remove an item, he can check out, or just add an item. So when I add an item, so I will send some data into my website, into the text box, the two text box you remember. So again, all the data can be managed inside of the tool or outside of the tool. When it's done, the data will be after that managed inside this condition. So the condition can be done with good data, it's what I have here, or bad data. It's also possible. You can try to generate some bad data. If you want to do it, you can. Well, for this demo, my data is inside of the tool, but again, you can connect all the data with an Excel files or a database. It's not a problem. So if the data is correct, then what I will do is I will add that to my shopping basket. It's what I have here. And if it's invalid, then I will display a message. I will say, that's it. When you have done that, then you have your model. That's it. You don't have to do something else. Again, everything is based on the structure diagram. I will not go again deeper in the structure diagram. You can see that I have some screen, I have some form. Here I have some button and some text box. The two combined together, this is your model, this is your knowledge, this is your system, and this is really easy and fast to do. Now when I have my model, what is also really interesting to do is to connect some requirements in it. So to connect some requirements, I don't know if some of you are using HP QC. So what you have all your requirements inside HP. Here we are. And what you can do is you can import your requirements. So for that, I will just link my HP QC requirement provider. After that, I will load all my requirements in it. Here we are. And after that, to add this requirement inside my model, I will just drag and drop. That's it. Something really great when you do that, when you add all this information and all this knowledge inside your model, is we will keep the traceability of your requirement for you. So now when we will generate some test cases, when we'll generate some test documentation, you will have the link between your test suite and your requirements. And I will show you that in the test generation. Okay, so now you know how to create a model with a really simple language, how to create a structure diagram. Again, I show here how to do it from scratch, but again, this is really important. You can reuse assets, and it's really what we want also to do when we deploy this technology. Okay, second step is we want now to generate some test cases. So I will jump in the second view called test generation. This is explicit. And now what I want to do is I want to click on a button. So this is really in live. Like that, you can really see that it's really easy to generate some test cases. So I will just save my my project. So first thing is I load the model. I just check that everything is okay and everything is in live here. After that, what you can see in the middle of my screen, I have 0% coverage. So what I want to do is I want to generate some test cases. So I click on the button and the tool will generate all the test cases for me. And you see that now in only a couple of seconds, I have 6 nice test cases with some nice description, with some nice test case name. Everything comes from the model. And also what you can see is you can see the test description. About the test coverage, I have 100% coverage of my model, okay? I have 100% coverage of the requirements. You can see a matrix here. You can see that I can have some information about the activity diagram, data, condition, and all that. This is important because in some big projects, usually you don't really want to have 100% coverage because maybe it's not important. So you want to select what kind of test suite you want. So for that, you can block some requirements. This is really easy. You can block, and after that, regenerate your test suites. Okay, so now I have everything. I have 100% coverage. Now maybe I want to check quickly my, my test suite. So I click on test review. Here we are. So what you can see on the right, it's my model. And when I click on my test cases, you can see the test cases directly inside the model. Because when you spend some time in your model, when you do some model review with all your team, well, it's really interesting to see the test cases directly inside your model because it's sometimes much more explicit than just reading the test cases. So, well, you can see it. This is really nice again. And after that, you have this diagram where you see the stimulation done by the tester to the system, okay? So here the tester will just try to navigate on the website. And when I click on it, you can see where this action is done on my model. This is also really interesting. So I can navigate like that inside my model. And if I want to have more, if I want to see all the data, I can always extend. But it's not really the goal here. So well, now I have my test generation. My test suite is perfect. I love it. So now I want to generate some test documentation. So what we have some integration. This is the integration bundle with the tool. So around my demonstration, what I will do is I want to generate some Excel file. So for test documentation, I don't know how long you spend by writing some test documentation, but you will see that now with this technology, you can do it automatically. After that, what I will do is I will send all my test suite inside QC ALM just for the demo. And after that, I will use for the execution transformer. But it could be Tosca, it could be Selenium, it could be whatever you want. Okay, so we'll just remove the Tosca importer. Here we are. So great. So now I have my free scripting backend. And now what I want to do is I want to export all that. So I will click on export test cases. So I have modified just quickly the test targets. So he just need to check that everything is perfect. Here we are. And now I'm generating all the test cases. So you will see on the right here that the first thing is he will generate I will say the test suite for transformer where I will execute, but it could be Tosca, Selenium, whatever you want. I already have all the documentation, and now I'm just sending all my test suite inside QC ALM. So let's open the test suite, the Excel test suite. Here we are. So you have the description of your test suite with some nice name, the coverage, and all that. After that, what you have the test case tab. And what you can see, I will zoom a bit. Here we are. That you have now some test documentation with some nice sentence, with some nice data, with some verification point if it's needed, like this one. Here we are. So I will say if you want to stick it manual, you can. With that, you can. You have your documentation, you have everything here. So if we come back now in ALM, so you remember my requirement, now I can jump directly in the test plan. Here we are. Now I have my full test suite. You can see that it's the correct date, so I'm not cheating. Here we are. Test case name, test description, design steps, all the description, and of course the requirements. Again, we keep the traceability with your requirements. So when I click, here we are, I come back now in my requirement tab, and here we go. So this is it. Now about the execution. So again, my execution will be done in Transformer. So I will just jump quickly in it. Here we are. So I will open now my Transformer project just to show you the execution that I don't need to touch something. So about the test suite, so I have my test suite generated by Creator with the test suite name, with all my my test cases. The test cases is based on data and keywords. So everything is pre-automated. If I need to automate, then it's another demonstration. It's really easy. And now for the execution, so I just jump in my test suite. I select the Selenium settings. So if I want to execute on Firefox, Chrome, Internet Explorer, whatever. After that, I come back here. I just click on play, click on Selenium because I want to execute it on Selenium. I use the basic here. It's for Selenium. So I click on run. And after that, the tool will just execute all my test suite generated by Creator directly on your SUT. Here we are. So you see that this is really an end-to-end. And after that, what I have, here we are, I have a full report. And here what you can see is I have a full execution. So this is Chrome. So I can open now my test cases and I have all the results. And if I have a failure or something like that here, then I can open and I can check after that the report, but this is more some transformer capability. So here we are, and after that, you can send it back to ALM, and here we are. So this is it for my demonstration. So I think I'm on time.
You did good. Great.
Thank you.
All right. Why don't you give me the screen again?
Sure. Give me 2 seconds. Here we are.
All right. Can you see my screen?
Yes, we can.
Excellent. Thank you. All right. So thank you for the very quick demo Alexis. Appreciate that. I know there's been some questions. I've tried to answer those as we've gone through the demo itself, but I wanted to make sure that we hurried through all the presentations, demonstrations, so that we have time for Q&A at the end, because I think there'll be a lot of good questions, and I look forward to those. So, given that we've kind of provided the introduction of both the overall needs of industry and the target that Accenture has and the tooling that Conformic has, what we really want you to understand is that you can actually move forward with combining these two solutions together. The idea is to create a system that supports your needs. And so the idea then from this is to say, I have a takeaway that I can leverage Conformic, I can leverage it for the speed of test design and the optimization, the known coverage, the tight integration with the tooling. But I have a team that understands how to test. I have a team that understands the process, the working with customers, delivering comprehensive testing and doing it fully and doing it on time at good cost. So the point here is that Accenture adds to that the ability to deliver the market experience, their platform, and deliver a complete system leveraging Conformic and leveraging other tools to provide your testing services that you need. And that's what we're really talking about, a solution to provide the services that you need for the new IT requirements that you're facing. What are the next steps? Well, reach out to either or both of us. I'll give you in the next slide contact information. You can also reach out to Stacy Dreyer, who contacted you in the first place, and she'll make sure that you get connected to the right people. What we want to do is to understand what you're facing. It's not about presenting anything and saying, hey, here it is, do you want it? What we want to understand is, what are the challenges, what are the important gains that you're trying to achieve, so that we can actually understand that and propose a solution. And in the case of Conformic, this is new technology. It's part of a digital transformation that is required, but it's something where you typically go, well, it looks pretty cool, but I got to see it. I got to understand it. I got to know what it does for my application. So the idea is that we work together with Accenture to make sure that we run a proof of concept on your application. And what we're targeting is quantifiable improvements. So the idea is, how much lower cost? How much better coverage? How do we provide the execution with some of your tooling? We don't need to do all of it, but the idea is to be able to show you that it works for your application. And in doing this, compare with your current process so that you understand the gains that you will achieve. To take that next step, I'm going to ask you to reach out to either Jeff or myself, and again, as I mentioned, you can also contact Stacy. But we'll be happy to start the discussions and move forward as we just talked about, so that we can do those next steps and move you toward a situation where you're comfortable with this solution that's being provided, and we can move forward. So with that, my last slide is opening up the questions to the audience so that we can give you answers. And Stacy, I'll need you to moderate here, and if you could read those questions and provide those to us, we'll be happy to answer.
Okay, some of these I think might be specific to the demo. There was a question, can this be integrated with mainframe for automated script execution?
Yes, we're doing that with customers now.
Okay. There is another one that says you need user input to create the model, and you need user input to understand what data is needed.
Yes, AI functionality that Jeff talked about will help, but this is not a mind reading tool. so that the user does need to understand the application and does need to understand that there is data, good or bad data, but the point is that there is something that's needed to add to the functional flow. So it's not, I mean, if it could think of everything, we wouldn't need any testers. So if that's what you want, we're not there yet. But what we want to do is we want to make the testers better, faster, and therefore more effective so that we can reduce costs. So yes, we still need people to provide that information.
Okay. There's another question that says, technologies that are covered for automation, is it based on the tool add-ons we have?
Tool add-ons. Yeah, basically, if what you're asking there, if I understand it correctly, is it based on the tools that you're using? Yes. Conformic will actually connect with the tools that you're using as part of our delivery of software. We have open APIs to connect to that. So whatever tool that you are using, we would connect to that and deliver the integration and maintain that integration. And so that's something that is critical in going forward. It's fitting your environment.
Okay. There's another question. Is it precise enough to be used in financial projects or research projects?
Research project is something where it's, I have a hard time defining that. It could be most anything there. I don't know what is really exactly meant by research. We'll have to ask that again. But in financials, absolutely. In fact, most of our customers are banks and financial services. So the point is, you're not just generating UAT tests, or you're not generating very superficial, simplified tests. You're dealing with detailed tests that are in use across many banks, probably right now as we speak, on a global basis. So yes, absolutely, financial projects. Anything that's mission critical. I mean, you could call retail mission critical because there's money there. You could talk about logistics, or you could talk about maintenance for airplanes, or you could talk about all kinds of things. But if you're talking about data, you're talking about finance, absolutely. All these things are critical, and that's why we're really focusing on this, because you need comprehensive, detailed tests to be able to properly test those types of applications.
Okay, there's a question, can this be used for API testing also, or is it limited to GUI testing?
No, API, absolutely. You could use SOAP UI, or, I mean, we showed XSD or WSDL imports. We have many users doing API testing. So yes,
Okay.
the answer is yes. It's good for both. You'd use different execution tools, but the process flow and, I mean, the modeling would be a little different because you're actually capturing some different information, but the process flow, the tooling, the generation of the optimized test cases is all completely consistent.
All right, so we have lots of questions. I don't know if we're going to get to all of them. There's another one that asks, do we have, are there any demo tools where we can try this practically hands-on?
Depending on who the answer is yes, real simple. We have a partnership with Accenture so that there are licenses available. We have our own specialists that will support you and work with you. We can provide some getting started training classes. I hesitate to just toss a tool out there and let anybody start to play with it, because that doesn't necessarily give you any understanding of how would you use it, and the value and the speed and efficiency, etc. So what we want to try and do is make sure that we make that a little more formalized process. But is this something that you can actually use and understand? Yes, absolutely. We've been doing that with multiple Accenture projects globally.
Okay, And there's a question, can Conformic help automate an analytics project, which includes extract, transform load, and report generation, as currently we do not have any automation?
We are not doing data validation per se. This is a functional testing tool. So if we're talking in analytics about, when you talk about extract and transform load, if we're really talking about the data matching, that's not a good fit. The modeling to do that, to handle that properly is probably more than that's needed. If there's functional testing here in terms of the way the process works, yes. We talk about analytics, you know, exactly what's going on there, how complex is that in terms of algorithms. If we're doing, you know, advanced math, that's probably, again, maybe outside of the sphere of the tool. We'd have to look at that on a detailed basis to let you know. I mean, what we want to be able to do is understand that application, as we said, and say, you know, is this a good fit? And if it's not, we're happy to tell you up front, because we don't want to have to go down the path of finding out later. So that's probably a question that requires a little more in-depth discussion. We could get Alexis, or depending on where the person asking the question is located, we could do that anywhere on the globe to be able to answer that in a local discussion. So please reach out to us, and we'll connect you to the right people, and we'll be able to answer that in more detail.
Okay, there's another question. Do the test results get updated in ALM?
If you want to. ALM is not the, I mean, ALM, I mean, if we want to say HP ALM, if you use HP, if you're using an application like lifecycle management tool, then yes, whatever that tool is. What will be the type of test scripts in ALM? It really depends on the execution platform that you want to use. If you're using HP ALM and you're going to use a QTP as part of UFT, then it's going to be in the typically hybrid format that you're using for execution in that tool. If you're using it in some other tool for execution, it will be in the format for the script that's needed for that execution. There's also a bunch of reports that get updated. So again, that's in the format report, or I'm sorry, the report format that the ALM tool uses. So again, HP has its own format. Other tools have their own format. The formatting is customizable, both for storage in the ALM tool, as well as for reporting to your stakeholders in whatever format they may have today. And some of that's very important for certain types of customers, companies that have you know, regulations on their reporting. So there's a lot of flexibility. If there's some specific tools that want to be mentioned, we can certainly talk about that in more detail.
Okay, there's another question. In recent days, there's a lot of talk about image-based automation for RPA and other automation. How suggestible is it for this, and your thoughts around it?
I'm working on that one now. Image-based, I mean, I'm thinking that's more, in some ways that may be more, are we thinking more user acceptance testing here? Or are we thinking about just being able to capture some screen, or, you know, again, with the caveat that this is for functional testing, I'd have to understand a little better on the image side, whether we're thinking about that for import or we're thinking about that for execution. Again, that's one of those questions that probably needs a more in-depth answer that I can give right now, and probably needs somebody that knows more than I do.
Okay, there's a question of, can we map requirements to our created test scripts with this tool?
Yes, absolutely. The best way to do that is to put those requirements in the graphical model that we talked about, and then everything is going to be tied together. So Alexis showed again, we're pretty fast on the demo, but showed the linkage between the requirements and the test cases themselves. Again, what we want to get away from is touching a lot of manual test cases or touching the test cases. You don't want to have to save all the test cases. You don't want to have to re-edit the test cases. What you want to be able to do is save the model and edit the model, because you can regenerate the exact same test cases every time. And if you make a change to the model because you've changed the requirements, it's going to show an impact analysis of what's changed, which are new, which are the same, which are no longer valid. So you don't take those to your regression pack. So that linkage is shown all the way through. And in addition to the scripts that are being generated, I want to remind people that the test validations are also being generated, so that just generating scripts without having the expected answer is only half the work. So Conformic generates both of those.
Somebody else asked, can we start the execution from HPALM and store the result back to ALM?
Yes.
That's a quick answer.
Or two questions, yes, yes.
Can we execute multiple test sets in one go?
If the tool allows that, it's dependent on the execution tool. For Selenium, for example, we allow you to run, in parallel. HP doesn't work the same way. So again, it's up to the execution tool itself. What Conformic is going to do is it's going to generate and output source code for execution. And that can then be linked to whatever execution tools you want. So if you have multiple instances of an execution tool, if it doesn't handle multiple executions automatically, you can distribute it as you need.
Okay, does Conformic maintain any traceability?
Yes. Traceability from the requirements all the way through the scripts. That's again, probably needs more explanation in the demo, but yes.
Can we track the defects as we do in ALM?
Defects are the output of the execution tool, and Conformic links to an execution tool, but we are not the execution tool itself. So the defect tracking will be part of the execution tool that you use. So it's outside of the scope of Conformic, but obviously it's tightly tied.
Okay. Somebody asked, I want to know if this can be used for integration testing.
Yes. Yeah, keep going.
Can you show how this can be used to test an integration with a web service? Along the same lines, how about asynchronous integrations?
Reach out to us to set up a demo, and we'll show more detail around the application you're interested in.
Okay. Is it possible to use this tool with a complex message broker like Redis, RabbitMQ, etc.?
I don't know the answer to that. I'm not familiar with the details. Alexis, do you have understanding of that to be able to answer it?
Can you just repeat the question, please?
Sure. Is it possible to use this tool with complex message brokers like Redis, RabbitMQ, etc.?
So I will say that yes, it's possible to use it with a complex message. It's really depend about your application. So I will say that we need to discuss together and see what is your requirement, how you manage actually today your complex message, and after that we'll see for execution and all that.
So there's also a question about license cost. And what benefits Accenture clients can get in costing.
We have a partnership with Accenture. Accenture gets discounted licensing. There are multiple types of licenses, so if there's specific interest in term-based or perpetual or shared server-based or local, numbers of licenses, etc., those things all factor into cost reduction. The idea here is to provide sufficient benefit that the cost of the tooling is a low percentage of the efficiency gain. So just to give you an idea, we have a customer who, it's a bank, a large bank. They had acquired 10 licenses. The gains they saw after 3 months had given them the ability to project a $1.25 million annual savings over the initial projected project cost. The cost of the tooling was about 10% of that, so the ROI they got in 1 year was tremendous, and that's not atypical. So we can certainly talk about pricing, but I think the key here is to talk about gains and to work with Accenture, because they will get best pricing to be able to apply to the customers.
Okay, can the requirements be read from tools other than ALM, for example, Jira, and scripts stored to a database other than ALM?
Yeah. We didn't, we kind of, again, went over too fast on that eye chart of all the different toolings that we support. The answer is yes, absolutely. We do not support Jira today only because it hasn't been required. Jira has a lot of different plugins, and so what we want to say is if you have the need for that, or if your customer has the need for that, then Conformic will add that to the list of supported tools. Remember, we support it, we maintain it, we enhance it as it goes forward, both from our improvements as well as the tool improvements. So we don't just throw out a whole bunch of tools just to make it look good. We need customer requirements for that. So that can be done pretty quickly, given the open APIs and that we have available there. So the answer is yes to that. If not immediately, then very shortly after the order's placed, that can be delivered to link to any tool.
Okay, somebody else asked, can we run multiple cycles of execution in it?
Multiple cycles. Are we thinking this is kind of repetitive changes, or are we thinking about in parallel? If you're talking about in parallel, again, the output from Conformic can be split across multiple different tools, but Conformic is not the execution engine, so you just need to be able to link up and split the test cases accordingly. If we're talking about repeating for quick changes to the application, then absolutely, because the tool will generate and let you know which of the tests that are no longer valid, which ones are new, and you can then focus on the appropriate scripts or test cases to generate scripts to execute.
Can it handle multiple decision-making points in series?
Yes, it really constrain the engine, because more than being in series, it's really if you have a few decision points or data dependencies up front, and then way back at the back end you have another one, it does force the tool to loop back through to test the the complete operation of that system. That's one of the reasons it's really important that we have the ability to handle multi-core, because those are very difficult types of applications to test. But we do that now. That large bank I mentioned, that is one instance where that type of application is being tested right now. So yes.
Okay, can we integrate open source automation tool?
Like Selenium? Absolutely. And not just Selenium, but yes. I mean, the idea is there's an open API that you can link, or we can link for you, to basically any tool, be it open source or not.
Okay, we are getting to the bottom of the questions now.
Hey, well, these are really good questions. I'm pleased that everybody was awake and asking good questions. And this again is probably the starting point for even more questions. So please reach back to us. I'm trying to, answer them at a high level here, but you'll want more detail, you'll want more in-depth information, and so that's why I'm saying, get back to us. We'll do a detailed demo for you. You get down into the guts and ask the questions we don't have time for today. But we don't expect that this is the complete answers that you're looking for. We do understand that we want to get into a lot more detail, and we're all technical folks. Okay, Stace, I'll put you on the side on that one. But everybody else is a technical person, and we understand that you really need to know this at a technical level, and we will spend the time to provide you with that understanding. And we can't expect you to go to your customers or go to your management without that level of understanding. So again.
Okay, people got excited because I said we were at the bottom of the question, so now there's a couple more.
Okay.
Does it take away the scripting activity in the tool used, such as QTP Selenium?
Yes, that's exactly right. That is eliminated, and it's not just eliminated. Again, I mean, you talk QTP. QTP is usually, or VB scripts for QTP are all a little different. So the idea is to provide a linkage to QTP using the hybrid framework, the hybrid format that you are using in your your company. So the answer is scripts are gone, total, 100% eliminated. I mean, to the extent that you can automate execution, but yes, the scripts are eliminated. That gives a huge gain. I mean, we're talking in the execution side of things, we're seeing upwards of 70% efficiency gain, because that scripting work is eliminated totally.
Okay. Does it support the cross-platform, for example, an end-to-end test with SAP and Oracle JDA?
Yes, it can. I mean, you need to understand your modeling to understand how best to accomplish that. But yes, we can do that type of system testing. They're not models that exist already for an SAP component, for example. We're not in the IP business for that. But if that model is created, then yes, it can be linked. We've actually demonstrated that in a number of instances. And we have customers using that. So the answer is yes. It's a little more complicated because you have to think about not just putting a huge amount of details together, but leveraging the idea of abstraction to understand what you really want to test. So anyway, the simple answer is yes.
Okay. If there is a change to the UI of the application being tested, does it always mean the model needs to be updated? In other words, how flexible is the model to UI changes in the application?
The model is, I think we tried to show it. We didn't show really changes made. It's very simple. I mean, it's kind of like changing your Visio diagram. You just either add more buttons or widgets. You may add different screens. It's just a case of putting in blocks for functional flow, as well as for the operation within that window or within that new interface. So it's very flexible. The tool will then automatically understand the changes. It will link it to the the rest of the model, and because it then understands the logic, it will then generate the tests and give you an understanding of which ones are new, which ones are still the same, and which ones are no longer valid. So that impact analysis will be shown. This is one of the key areas that makes the modeling part of model-based testing so easy, so important. Not just the graphical view, but the idea is that it's so simple and understandable to make changes to the GUI or even the application operation itself if you're not doing it with the GUI. But yeah, this is something that could be shown in a demo or the lab. If you'd attend the lab coming up on Thursday, either next Thursday or the week from Thursday, depending on your location, you'll see how easy this is to make those changes. I mean, this is where dealing with manual test cases or scripts is just so really hard to maintain and manage and understand. And this becomes almost trivial in this case. That's an excellent question because it's really critical to the entire process flow and efficiency gain initially as well as repeatably.
Somebody else writes, they're interested to know what applications are supported. Is .NET emulated screens, mainframe and AS400 supported?
We're really agnostic to the applications because we're going to generate the executable scripts in the format that's needed for the execution. There is nothing that is unique about any of those. I won't say AS400 is really mainframe. It's kind of, sort of, but it's really more the application and the way the application operates or the integration with the API testing. So the simple answer of that is that we're agnostic to the application, the language, the execution platform. If you think about it, you're saying manually I can write those. Well, in this case, what you're doing is you're capturing the process and then the tooling's going to generate that automatically instead of doing it manually. So if you can automate the execution, then this is going to automate the generation of scripts for that execution. And if you don't, we can generate manual test cases too, if that's what's required. The output is one of the reports is just manual test steps that you can review those with have a review with your stakeholders, step by step, detail by detail, data by data. So if you don't have automated execution, you can do it on a manual basis also. But clearly, we want to see automation for increased efficiency.
Okay, just one more question.
Famous last words. Oh, yeah.
I know. Open source test execution platforms like Tempest.
I'm not familiar with Tempest, but I maybe Alexis is, but I would be very, very surprised if there wasn't a simple integration to that. Open source tooling, the nice part is that they pretty much are open in their interfaces, and so it's very easy for us to connect to. So we can look at that and give you a quick answer to it, but I would say there's probably a way over 95% probability that could be done in a matter of a few days.
Okay, I think we're out. I think we got them all.
Okay, well, no, we got this round. We got more coming. So, hey, everybody, thank you so much for being on and attending. Jeff for sticking out all the questions and everything. Alexis for the demo, and Stacy for running this all. So thank you all. Again, this is going to be saved and able to be reviewed later. For those of you who have more questions that popped up after the end of the webinar, or for those of you who we just couldn't answer in enough detail, reach back to us. I just want to say, touch base, let us answer those, send us emails, give us a call, whatever's needed. We want to make sure that we provide you everything that you need to be able to understand what the fit is and the capability and the benefit. So thank you all. Any last words, Jeff?
Nothing for me. You've said it. I think you took all the words, actually.
I think I took a few extra from everybody. Brevity is not my strength, but I try and be complete. So thank you all. Appreciate it. Looking forward to hearing from you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you, everyone.